Hello, everyone. Welcome for joining us on today's event, Imperfection by Design. My name is Nancy Natalia Elling, your MC for today's event. This event is deliberated by Singapore chapter of IAI. IAI is the Indonesian Institute of Architects and organized by SIA, Singapore Institute of Architects, as part of Singapore Archifest 2021. This is the third theme cycle of the event for the architect community, SIA and IAI working together. The theme, Imperfection by Design, in line with the Archifest theme, Design Evidence. To start the event, I would like to invite Mr. Razvan Gilik Miku, Festival Director of Archifest 2021, to say a few words. Please welcome Mr. Razvan Gilik Miku.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. And of course, shout out to our brave event leaders, to our panel of rock stars, and of course, everyone dialing in. Hello and selamat siang. Before I make a few remarks, I wanted to thank again IAI for having me here today and for being such an incredible, long-standing friend of Archifest. I have always enjoyed the great conversations that your passionate group of Indonesian architects bring together again and again. You guys deliver the goods every single time. And if in past years I've been cheering you from the audience, this year it is a real privilege to be addressing you all as the Singapore Archifest Festival Director. It is somehow incredibly befitting that your event is happening today on the official last day of the month and of the festival, ending it on a really high note. And on a personal level, having had the chance last night to moderate Pechakucha Penang, bringing together incredible Malaysian architects and adding today on top of that with such a stellar Indonesian cast, it is a real and rare treat. Bringing Archifest to a close with our closest neighbors is the best way possible to wrap up a month of exciting workshops, talks, tours, and many other online and offline events. Also, having had the privilege to build in Indonesia as an architect, I know all too well the amazing warmth, kindness, and generosity of your community. Last week, we had a wonderful conversation with Florian and Dana of Shao. To many people in our audience, this has been a really eye-opening insight into how the incredible passion of designers can be matched with entrepreneurial resourcefulness at all levels of governance to make something special happen, despite imperfections. It is really awesome to see such an accomplished panel tackle this very topic of imperfection. In many ways, like you said, this is also a great reaction to the theme that I've set for this year's Archifest, Design Evidence. And I'm really glad to see this group searching for evidence of design progress in an imperfect system. Because I think over the past month, we've seen an incredible amount of creativity arising out of constraints. And I'm very sure that we're up for a very exciting design journey today as well. The energy that IAI brings to our cross-country conversations is absolutely infectious. I love every single chance to lean in and learn from you guys. So thank you again for bringing such an exciting event to our audience. Can't wait to hear from you all. So please take it away, Nancy, and have a lot of fun with it. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Razvan Gilik Miku. Okay. Now it is also my pleasure to introduce our architect, Mr. Georgius Budi Yulianto, the president-elect of IAI. He just got elected at Bali this month. Congratulations for your winning the election, Mr. Georgius Budi Yulianto.
Thank you.
Okay, time is yours now.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my greatest pleasure to meet you all. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Georgius Yulianto. And today, I'm the new president of IAI and just got elected yesterday in Bali. Without further ado, I would like to thank the chairman of IAI Singapore, Pak Alam. Thanks for inviting this event, and may I wish all of success for the IAI Singapore and all friends in Singapore. As we all believe, this post-pandemic era will bring major shifting, bring a transformation in our perspective and on how we practice as an architect. However, on the other hand, this pandemic provides us a lesson that distance and time are not our concern and rather giving us privilege in activities and collaboration. I will always encourage and commit to accommodate any forms of cooperation between architectural community in Indonesia and neighboring countries, especially Singapore, so that the exchange of information, reference, and discussion can become a synergy that is always updated and eagerly awaited. Happy webinar, good luck, and I wish all success always for AIA Singapore and our friend in Singapore Institute of Architects. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Georgios Budiyalianto. Okay, before I introduce our moderator, I would like to say hi for our participants from Singapore, Indonesia, Philippines, Bali, and also Norway. Today's event features 3 panelists from Singapore and Indonesia. They will share their projects and how it's related to the topic imperfection by design. We have relearned to find beauty in what has already existed in our surroundings, regardless of its imperfection. How this shift in our point of view will shape the future of the architecture and design industry remain to be seen. Before we start the session, I would like to introduce our amazing moderator. Mr. Alam Mulyana will guide you throughout the event. He is the chairman of the Singapore chapter of IAI, graduated from Parahyangan Catholic University, Indonesia, started his architecture career in Jakarta before moving to Singapore 2010. In Singapore, he worked on projects across Asia for companies such as Wow Architects and IDAS. He's currently an associate and project designer of WATG Singapore. Without further ado, over to you, Alam.
Thank you, Nancy. And very good afternoon to everyone. Thank you very much for joining us in Indonesia at Archifest 2021, Imperfection by Design. As mentioned by Razvan, our colleague from SIA and the festival director of Archifest, this event is organized as part of Archifest 2021, which is organized by Singapore Institute of Architects. And of course, this event is organized by fellow Indonesian architects in Singapore that is a member of IAI Perwakilan Singapura, or the Singapore chapter of Indonesian Institute of Architects. First of all, I want to thank all you attendees for joining us today, and also thanking Razvan Gilikmiku, festival director and a very close friend of us. And also congratulations to Mr. Architect Georgios Budi Yulianto, or we used to call him Bugar. Congratulations for elected to become the president of IAI yesterday. So congratulations, and thank you for your time, and thank you for joining us in this good afternoon today. As introduced by Nancy, our lovely host, my name is Alam, and I will be your moderator for today. First of all, I will set a few ground rules for everyone, for all the attendees. So for attendees, we will have a conversation between the moderator and the panelist, but feel free to type in your question in the Q&A below, because later on we will have a Q&A session. We will pick the question and then ask them to our amazing panelists for today. So, untuk rekan-rekan yang ingin bertanya dalam bahasa Indonesia, bisa juga tulis pertanyaannya dalam bahasa Indonesia di kolom Q&A. Nanti kami akan tanyakan ke panelis dalam bahasa Inggris. So that's the end of my Indonesian for today. I'll switch back to English from now on. And let's start with the topic for today. if any of you are wondering why the title, Imperfection by Design, what about it? As Raspan mentioned earlier, he set up a really great theme of design evidence for this year's Archifest. And related to this, we all know that we all live through this pandemic. And the pandemic has changed the way we view many aspects of our life. The confinement, the restrictions, and then the limit to our freedom of movement really brought us into a new appreciation of what's evident around us, regardless of its imperfection. And we observe that some of us have relearned to find beauty in what has already existed around us, whether it's something is perfect, whether it's imperfect. We are learning again to find beauty around us because of the limitation that we experienced during the pandemic. So how is this shift in point of view will shape the future of architecture and design industry? We don't know yet. That's why we bring our three panelists here today with us. And we also, before we go to the panelists, we start asking questions. If before the pandemic, the design industry's pursuit of perfection, rapid growth, and efficiency is paramount, with this renewed sense of appreciation to what's already evident, will it be slowing down? Will we be more forgiving of imperfection? Will imperfection become something that is cultivated? Something that exists by design? So, ladies and gentlemen, those are the questions that we brought up before we start this webinar. And now, that gives us to our first session of this webinar. So in this session, I will introduce our amazing panelists one by one, and we will hear in depth from them about themselves, about their experience, and how it relates to the topic that we're talking about today. And please allow me to invite our first panelist, Mr. Ari Indrayanto. Hello, Mr. Ari.
Hi, Alam. Hi, everyone.
Hi. Hello, welcome to the webinar.
Thank you for inviting me for this wonderful webinar. It's very hot here in Salatiga, so hopefully I can survive for the next 2 hours.
Sure, it's really chill here in Singapore. We're all aircon. Okay.
How are you, Alam?
So,
how are you, everyone?
Good. I'm good. So, first of all, I will need to read out your profile to the audience so that the audience will know you better.
Please not too long.
Please bear with me for a while. I will share my screen. Okay. So please allow me to introduce Mr. Ari Indrayanto first for the audience. So for those who are not familiar, Ari is a practicing architect, a part-time lecturer, and a writer. He rose to prominence through his work for Abode, an architecture practice he formed with 2 other partners in Jakarta in 2006. The practice has since won many awards, including the recently awarded 2021 IAI Awards. Congratulations for that, Ari.
Thank you.
He also has published 2 books of his firm's work, Fame, Fortune, and Fraud in 2014, and Firmitas in 2017. For our Singapore audience, don't worry, Ari is not a stranger to Singapore, since he worked for Axis Architect and Planners in Singapore from 1998 to 2006, where his last position is Principal Designer. In 2018, he was appointed as lead curator for Indonesia Pavilion in Venice Architecture Biennale, which he and his team published a book titled Sunyata, The Poetics of Emptiness. As mentioned by Ari himself, he is currently residing in Salatiga in Central Java. And Ari is pursuing his other interests in art and public work advocating pluralism, while working on a number of social projects with his sahabat Selojene. I hope I do yourself justice, Ari, with the profile. Such
Thank
an
you for those
amazing.
kind words, Alan.
So you have this career span in almost 20 plus years. So I think the audience will want to hear because you have this different stages of your career. So starting, I believe before you come to Singapore, you start in Jakarta as well, then went to Singapore, then moving back to Jakarta, established your own company, and then now you kind of retreated to Salatiga in Central Java, away from the urban areas. So I want to know that how have your work or the way you work evolved during these different stages of your career?
Well, thank you, Alam. I don't know. I always have a reverse journey in my career because, first of all, when I was graduating in the university in 1995, it was kind of showing how most of the fresh graduate in Indonesia at that time having a confused state of mind. That was the period where this profession was still not getting appreciation it deserved, I guess. So observing how little the salary at that time was, I decided to try my luck working in corporate company just for the sake of having a better salary. So I think this is not the kind of journey that some of you will be experiencing right now. But at the time, what lured me in this industry actually was the salary. But of course, it didn't. I'm talking about the fact now. But of course, it didn't go well with my interest. So after 5 months working on that corporate industry, I moved to another development company at that time, which offered me a better challenge and of course a better salary. Again, it's about salary. Until I think it was 98 when the massive political unrest wasn't do very good on this profession. So I have to go to Singapore and what was to be only 1 and 2 years tryout period extend up all the way to 9 years. But that
we all can relate to that.
Yeah, I know. So I'm talking to the right person in front of me now. But that is where I realized how little I know about architecture, and I was having quite a wrong start in my profession. So I really take up that position and a period to learn a lot about this industry. And I was quite lucky because my boss at that time I felt was not really enjoying architecture. So because instead he spent most of his time doing interior work, so I have almost like 60% liberty in the office to do whatever I want in architecture. So that is an important important learning period for me, and that's why I stayed quite long in the same company until 2006 when I decided to set up Abode with my 2 other partners. It grows to the size of today with the kind of project that maybe I didn't dare to dream of at that time. But what I learned from Singapore, and I think you also can relate with this, is that you all guys have those kind of precision of time, scheduling, meticulous detail on handling project, and of course, the optimism in every situation. That's what the very important thing I learned from Singaporean and Singapore industry of construction. And I try to apply it contextually in my own firm, of course, with some negotiation here and there, as there's obviously a huge difference on the construction industry in Singapore and Indonesia. Whereas in Singapore, we always have to abide to many rules. In Indonesia, we can sometimes play around with the rule, and that's how the rule work in Indonesia, as you all guys know. But
we're not advocating to break the
no,
rules.
we don't advocate that, but I'm just stating the fact that that's the situation right now, that is really do good in the practice, because we do enjoy what we are experiencing here with some of the project, Alam, that I'm very sure we'll never see the light of the day in Singapore's stringent permit process. So that's what's the beauty of working in the industry in Indonesia. So please come back home, you guys in Singapore. There's a lot of fun here. This is the open invitation. I think this is the right moment for all of you guys to coming back home and contributing to the country. So, I guess after all the process in 2021, our practice will celebrate its 15th birthday, and I have a personal goal actually in my mind to make my work growing deeper instead of growing bigger, because that is the certain age, the critical age that in this practice we have to evolve into something new. So I'm planning actually to take more passive role in Abode and pursuing my own interest in making things differently. But I'm quite lucky. I don't have to wait until 2021, because when in the early 2020, the first COVID case in Indonesia detected just like maybe 150 meters away from our office, and you know where, right, Alam? So and it blew out unexpectedly in just few weeks. So before, I already maintained a weekend house in Salatiga, which during the outbreak suddenly really fit the purpose of. It was quite far from the epicentrum, but yet still very well connected with the internet, with the tollway. So I decided to stay here. It was also a temporary plan, but now become permanent residency here in the town of Salatiga, with only 200,000 population. That to me is like giving me a new challenge, is a new eye opener, that maybe I was captivated with the way this small town embrace pluralism, something that I guess is very special in Indonesia diversity landscape nowadays, as you know what I mean. So here I am.
Amazing.
So here I am in Salatiga. It's been 2 years, and while I'm still running my office in Jakarta remotely, I also managed to secure a few interesting projects that I hope will sharpen my understanding about the life profession that I choose, and maybe I will show you after this.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, you give us a bit of slides, and just to aid the audience about what you meant by Salatiga and then how small it is. Let me just share this quickly for the audience.
Oh yeah, I forgot that we have to share this image. This beautiful.
It's okay.
Image.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's a beautiful image of the town of Salatiga. We are surrounded by 5 mountains and one big lake. I think it's a 1600 1700 square meter from the sea level. So have a very what do you call that, Alam? A very chill weather. Unlike other places, cool weather. Unlike other places in Indonesia, in Central Java. So this is where I live now. This is the place where I wake up and I see the real sun ray without the dust, without the pollution that I've been experiencing like maybe 15 years in Jakarta. So this is how life goes on now.
Yeah. Just let me skim through the contrast with what you did before, or what you're still doing with your firm in Jakarta. So yeah, so this is one. I just skimmed through because we need to go to the next panelist. So let's skim through your work in Jakarta and your incredible work in Jakarta or in other cities in Indonesia here.
Yeah, this is in Jakarta.
Yeah. And this is an apartment in Tangerang.
Yeah. This is the kind of project we are doing in Abode.
Yeah, and with your current place of residence, which is a very contrast with Jakarta, we are now curious about what you're doing here. But let's save that for later, okay? So okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your career journey with us. And so that's our first panelist, Ari Indrayanto. And now allow me to invite our second panelist from Singapore. Our second panelist is Emily Sim from Singapore. Hi, Emily.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Alam.
Emily.
Hi, Ari.
Hello, hi, welcome to the webinar. Thank you for
Thank
joining us
you.
today.
My pleasure.
Okay, so Emily is the founder of Panelog and Superstructure, and then just like what I did with Ari, let me read out your profile
Okay.
for the benefit of the audience first. Okay, let me share my
Thank
screen.
you.
Okay, so Emily is the founder of Panelog and Superstructure. Panelog is the company that specializes in wood-based technology, advisory, and distribution of innovative and sustainable materials for the Southeast Asian market. Graduating from SMU and an apprenticeship in Sumitomo Forestry, Japan, she works with individuals, brands, and government agencies on the selection and implementation of sustainable builds and regulation. She currently serves on the board of Singapore Furniture Industries Council, or SFIC, as an executive committee member and previously as an executive committee member of the Singapore Timber Association. She's actively advocating for safer and more sustainable alternatives. And in 2017, she co-founded Superstructure with the vision to link design to production by the means of computational design and digital fabrication, exploring unconventional build projects to extend creative practices. She has since worked with artists, designers, and architects on installations in PwC Innovation Center, Facebook Asia Pacific Office, and exhibits in the Singapore National Gallery. Hope I did you justice over there.
Thank you so much for the introduction. It was amazing.
Thank you. It was an amazing journey of your career as well. So you started you're not trained as a designer, but your journey is all about design. And please, we want to hear more actually about the two companies that you founded. So please tell me more about the founding of your business, Panelog, and the practice Superstructure in Singapore. So how did you start with dealing with wood materials, laminated surfaces, and then end up with digital fabrication?
Yep. So my family is actually in the traditional timber business. We trade a lot of timber, plywood, and all kinds of traditional timber derivatives. So it was never really my intention to come back until I did an apprenticeship in Japan, and it really opened my eyes to what the timber industry could be. There were a lot of, it was a whole different philosophy on how to respect the forest and treat timber as a finite and yet renewable resource. I wanted to make a difference, to search for more innovative materials that can inspire design, at the same time more efficient to manufacture. When I realized, when I came back to Singapore, there were a lot of things that that didn't exist here and that could be and can improve, like or help designers, create more sustainable places and all that, to shift the vision for what's rare to shift the consumption for what's rare to what's innovative instead. So the materials I normally carry into the market, you can see in the slides, some recycled paper and wood, or wood and concrete, or even like paper made to look like stone. Very, very interesting. And new things always get pushed back from the market. When I try to introduce it to new contractors or carpenters, they get a lot of resistance trying to use it. So I get, like, on one hand, I get designers that are super excited about the possibilities of what this can do. And then I get the traditional carpenters that were really resistant. And like a lot of things that depends on the carpenter, right? They will usually say, oh, it can't be done, or sometimes they will put a really big markup on it and then it would not be done at all. So in the context of Singapore, it was extremely challenging, especially because my generation was not taught carpentry in school. So sometimes we really felt like we were like being held hostage, by the craftsmen of an older generation, and it was tough to get them to explore. So one of my first interaction with digital fabrication and computational design was supplying for the SUTD pavilion. The professors took such a long time, and I think they were so glad that they found me, that they have this wood that was tailored to their specifications, where they found the right material, and they were also sharing how difficult it was to get it built. In the end, the contractor was not really involved. It was all done by students. Yeah, so one day I decided not to be held hostage anymore by this field and venture into this market myself of digital fabrication. So I imagine that with these tools, we can lower the barriers of entry for my generation to make things. Since we are always on the computer anyway, why not put it to good use and program something? So this is where the adventure started, and together with a like-minded architect and close friend, Pani Chen, I decided to invest in the CNC, hired a brave team of like-minded individuals and convinced them to work at Sungai Gadot, which is kind of like a countryside in Singapore, and which brings us to where we are today. And I'm very thankful for their hard work and contribution to our vision.
Thank you very much. That's really insightful, and I really like you mentioning about we need to take back the means of production, because I believe we designers and architects and the attendees that join us today, a lot of them have no or very little control once their scope is done, which is not really where when the building or the design is constructed or produced. So it will be interesting to listen more about your experience with that later on. So, but unfortunately, we need to, not unfortunately, but fortunately, we need to introduce our last of our panelists for today. And I want to invite our third panelist, last but not least, Mr. Lim Masulin from Indonesia. Hello, Mr. Lim.
Hi, Alam.
Hi,
everyone.
Nice to have you here.
Hi,
How
Lim.
are you?
Nice to see you all.
Okay, you know the drill. So I will read out your profile first for the audience. So please bear with me for a while. Let me share my screen. Okay, so for those in the audience who don't know who Lim is, so Lim Masulin is the founder of BioLiving. BioLiving is a company that focuses on visionary weaving techniques applicable to be used for architecture projects, design objects, and artworks. Lim and BioLiving has been collaborating with architects, designers, and artists. His collaboration with architect Andra Martin for a pavilion at the Venice Architecture Biennale in 2018 received a special mention award for reflecting on the material and form of traditional vernacular structures. Beyond weaving, Lim is pushing BioLiving to develop innovative, sustainable material technology, such as regrowable rattan, durable silica skin, tear-proof grass from CO2 absorbing peatland, and weatherproof upcycle waste. Currently, Lim is pushing BioLiving even further with its BioFuture Lab, integrating computational design and latest technologies into their works. Lim has been awarded as one of the ASEAN Senior Mastercraft Designer and spoken at the World Economic Forum as well, sharing how to make a social impact with weaving's circular sustainability. And that's it. Hope I did you justice as well there, Lim. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Alam.
Yeah, I believe that IAI Singapore member is not is very familiar with you, but then for the benefit of the new audience, I want to dig deeper into your career and what you're doing actually with BioLiving. So just like what I read earlier, that now you're trying to push BioLiving even further with the Future Lab. If am I correct? That's how we call it, Future Lab.
Yeah, by now we still call the unit BioFuture Lab. We still keep it a secret, but yeah, we haven't published it yet. But by now the one that we call it within our team, we call it the BioFuture Lab. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's basically some sort of R&D team, right? So
right.
My question would be, please tell us more about how BioLiving has evolved throughout this year. So how did you start with dealing with hand weaving, and now ended up having an R&D team that is pushing technologies into your work?
Yeah. Yeah, basically, as you know, we are in BioLiving, we focus on customized weaving solution for sustainable architecture. And in fact, before the COVID lockdown, the kind of projects that we are involved in requires a lot of innovation work in weaving process. So let me share you a video quickly to give you an idea what we've done before COVID. Okay. Yeah, so these are the kind of projects that we do. So requires a lot of weaving hours, whether for large scale architecture or for residential projects. Yeah. So what happened with during the COVID? In our team, we focus more on purpose, deeper process, and preservation. Yeah, and I mean we've been in the business for 14 years now, and the kind of weaving technology that we have can execute a greater complexity. So what it means, it shifts our team culture. We have a more savior in-house architect team, but it also pushes a direction that our team needs to be a better listener and also a better collaborator with many stakeholders, in such that we could execute a more environmental and socially responsible on per meter square of weaving solution that we did. And let me share with you what we've done so far. Yeah, so these works are done by the latest team. Yeah, we have more and more architects in our team, and the kind of projects that we did is also on the bigger scale, which requires more responsibilities here. Yeah, that's all from me, Alan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lim. So, ladies and gentlemen, dear attendees, so I'm happy that I'm happy to inform you that those three are our panelists for today, and we will jump into the next session, which is a Q&A session with all the three panelists. So for first of all, for organizer, can you turn for all the panelists, can you turn your video on? And for the organizer, can you make sure that all four of us are pinned? Thank you. Okay, thank you. So let's jump into the next session, which is the the most interesting session of all the webinars out there, which is the Q&A with the panelists. So, so first of all, for the audience, please feel free to type in your questions at the Q&A below. We already see that there are already some questions, so thank you for that, and keep the questions coming in because the panelists are here to answer all of your Yingling questions. Okay, so let's start with what this session is all about. So this session, we want to go back to the first lingering question that is our theme today: imperfection by design. In this session, I already prepared some unique questions for three of you, and hopefully that those questions can invigorate, like can spark a invigorating conversation. And since you already wait for a while, Lim, during the introduction, so I'll start with you. And my first question is, this is related to what we talked about in the first place about imperfection. So BioLiving focuses on providing hand-woven surfaces, which, unlike mass-produced materials, hand-woven products are prone to imperfections. You get chipped here, you get a bit of alignment issue here and there. And then how do you deal with the issue of these imperfections? Or do you consider this an issue at all?
Yeah, I mean, in comparison to mass-produced material, if you must know, I think there are also a lot of limitation with it. Yeah. First of all, when it comes to aesthetic, the mass-produced material is very static. You can only work on the color and finishes. But with us, we talk about layers of shadow. We talk about opticality. You know, so it's more purposeful on when it comes to aesthetic. And then secondly, when it comes to performance, again, the mass-produced material only work as a unit of performance, only a single performance. But with weaving, what you could do, we could execute a dynamic site-specific solution. We could do a gradation weaving that can solve heat radiation at certain place, at a certain hour of time. We could create a certain weaving technique here. So that's the second. And thirdly, by now most of the mass-produced material is not made to perform in a way of environmental and social impact. It's machine-made. But with us, we create jobs. We give technology transfer to the villagers. We recycle waste, and we cut off unnecessary carbon excess here. So yeah, I mean, when you talk about imperfection, in a simplistic answer, is actually more about a choice. But I mean, you know, the work like the likes of Antoni Gaudi, you know. The way I see it, weaving can help the work of architecture to be sui generis, a class of its own. So what we did with weaving is we help architecture to be more timeless. Yeah, Alam.
Okay, that's really a few. I can tell there are a few points that you mentioned here that is really interesting. So first of all, you talk about static and dynamic, and also like a customization, how weaving, despite of or in spite of its imperfection, it's really good for customization. And in the end, whether something is imperfect or not, or perfect, is about choice. And somehow it can bring sense of timelessness as well. And that brings me to the next question, but not to you, Lim, because this is really related to what Emily is doing. So Emily, in relation to what Lim already mentioned about his product that is very different with mass-produced product. So in one of your interviews, Emily, you mentioned that when you first offered panelog products, which are made from natural imperfect materials like reconstituted wood, wood chips, and so on, you met some pushback in marketing them as a luxury products because people had a set definition on luxury. Is that what was happening? How is it different now? And tell me more about your experience previously.
Yeah, so when I first started within this industry, and that's why I thought it was kind of backwards, was like the traditional definition of luxury is usually something rare or perfect, and people were paying handsomely, you know, for the rarest slab of marble or the largest plank of wood. And you know, I would, and looking at wood being such a rare skill, I would be commissioned to go to Myanmar to find the largest tree so that I can do parquet for a house, and that owner wanted every single plank of wood to be the same color. So would it be justifiable to do something like this, such a majestic tree being made into flooring? So this really got me thinking, so I started this journey on promoting, you know, asking consumers to pay more for human innovation instead of something that's rare or sought after. And I really believe that this is changing truly. Largely because like nowadays it can be seen as controversial to own them. Like highly priced products can often affect sustainability. People are more critical of what they consume. They tend to value the process a lot more than the end result nowadays. Techniques such as like wabi-sabi starting to gain traction recently, and people tend to appreciate imperfections a bit more. And also we are shifting from collection to curation, right? Everything is digital. We have less opportunities to showcase our personalities, right? So we used to display our CDs on the wall, but now everything is on our phones. So imperfections by nature, inconsistent, is therefore a unique quality that all of us want to have, right? So people start to look for, let's say, rustic timber. And you know, when you go for a live age table, beauty is subjective and it's all individual. So especially in today's marketplace, where Lynn mentioned, everything is so manufactured. People crave what's real and they want their own unique experiences.
Okay, thank you. So several points there that really interesting there is that so first you mentioned about people moving from collection to curation, and can you tell us more about that? And Ari, I believe that you are familiar with this term, collection and curation. Maybe you can add up later. But Emily, tell us more about this movement from collecting to curating.
Yeah, because like nowadays there's just so much information out there, right? Like even not even within architecture, but within like on our screens and all that, there's so much information going on, and people want to select what they want to know. And with like I do feel that like in terms of clients' houses and all that, instead of telling me, you know, I want to display this collection, my stamp collection and all that, they're now telling me, hey, like I want something that is suitable to my philosophies, my ideals. What do you recommend? I do see a lot of designers coming to me with this brief as well, and that's why I feel like it's changing. You know, like people want something that is more tactile instead of something that everybody else already has, or really going or you know, moving with the Joneses or keeping up with the Joneses, as they say. Everybody has their own unique experience, and that's why people spend so much on traveling, right? Like it's not quantifiable. You can't compare your traveling experience with somebody else's.
Yes, experiences is what we are craving nowadays, since we are confined in this really limited spaces. And Ari, I know you've been dabbling with curating in the later stage of your career. So I want you to comment on what Emily is just saying about there's this movement from collecting to curating in the consumers.
Wow, this is a very difficult situation to answer your question. I think that's a good way to put it, but let me put it in an architecture perspective, because to me, sometimes it's a very, it feels very good to gain a temporary freedom from architecture market. Do you know what I mean, right? I mean, I like to design something when there is a problem. So there is a certain limit or restriction that I must observe and obey. And I also like to be given a corridor where I can make decision accordingly. So that is where the collection become the curation. Design happen because there is a problem. It's not because we want to do it because there is a problem, so there is a design. There are questions to answer. So if there were no problem, you don't need to do any design in architecture. That is my standpoint. So to me, back to the imperfection thing, I like to say that the imperfection to me is like a given situation that maybe at this moment I need to embrace, and I need to start giving it a purpose on it. It's not just because I have to, but because I need to, and that's how collecting become curating. Am I right to answer that, Alan?
It's related, but one thing that I can hear from you and Emily is that there's something beyond what people want to relate to, something beyond the physical. Basically, people want to relate to the experience. People want some symbolism of what they are, and in terms of architecture, people want what they have as a solution to some sort of problem that they care about. Am I correct, Ari, to say that?
Yeah.
So that's something that I can take from these two answers. And this is a really interesting take on imperfections. We go through from imperfection to curating and collecting. But then let's move back to Lim. So we're not lefting you out. So I have another question for you. So related to processes, related to Emily just mentioned a bit about how people are actually interested in the processes when they see a product, when they see a design. And for you, how important is it for your customer, for your client, to understand the intricate process and stories behind your weaving? Ari, please. Yeah.
But that's question for me, right?
No. I'm coming back to Lim. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll have your turn. Okay. I'm not lefting you out. I'm not leaving you out. Sorry. But so come back to Lim. So my question is, how important is it for your customer to understand the intricate processes and stories behind the weaving? So because how have the demands from the architecture and design community, from Ari and alike, in terms of this your product evolved? So have they starting to embrace the stories, the processes? Have they embraced the perfections behind it? So maybe you can tell us a story more about that.
Yeah, I mean, there is, in my opinion, there's no absoluteness when it comes to perfection and imperfection when discussed about this here. And I think our angle, the kind of angle that Ari take, Emily take, and I take is more on on certain niche that we think could be a better practice or a best practice to deal with the imperfection. But then again, to answer your question, yeah, I mean, we try as much as possible not to be very market oriented, because the kind of clients and architects who come to us is actually them by themselves realize that they are process driven. So I mean, if they are process driven, then they would definitely come to us. And when they come to us, funny enough, they actually want to learn. They want to hear what we have in mind. So I mean, I don't know whether you've seen Jiro Dreams of Sushi. Yeah? I mean, this is a movie about a very good sushi chef. I mean, if you are a fan of sushi, you would, in a way, understand a story or two behind how a good sushi is made. So you will appreciate the process driven behind a sushi is made. So I mean, that's the same with us. So those who already has sensibilities, whether from the architect side and the client side, they sort of has an angle on our rigorous process intent. They know why we do it and the angle of us doing it. In such, they come with a problem and they approach us, and then and the way they come to us is actually they want to know how much further we push the boundaries, and then from that is sort of like the starting point. Given with my situation, given with your furthest boundary, how we play along with our design process. Yeah, actually nowadays we are involved in a much earlier design process. We are no longer brought into like the last part of the project. Yeah. So that's the angle, Alam.
Yeah, actually that's a good point about process-driven designers that you work with. And we know as a designer, as architects, that process is one of the most, if not one of the most important part of our design. It's not the design product itself, but design process. But come back to Emily. So Emily, through your practice, Superstructure, you collaborate with designers to find solution through digital fabrications for their clients' projects, right? So just like what I mentioned just now, we as a designer know the importance of this process-driven activity. But if we are not the designers, if we are not the producers, if I'm the client, how do you communicate this importance of processes behind whatever you are doing? Because some consumers, some clients, actually in the end they will only experience the final product. So how do you make sure that people understand the importance of the right process behind things?
Well, similarly with what Lim mentioned, usually when a client looks for us, usually they already have a vision which cannot be easily achieved, so they are quite receptive to what we have to say. Typically, we try to document our projects better so that when we show our clients the end result or the past end results is a testament to our creative process. For example, when we look at the fabric wood pavilion, designed by Produce, which pays homage to the Eames chair that was steam bended. So they were the first people to start steam bending the chair for Herman Miller. The designers wanted to think of a new way to deform bent wood, right? And they came up with the method of darting, of sewing wood together. So it was a process that we developed together iteratively to create something like this. And of course, we try to work together with the designers to certainly not change or compromise on their initial concept despite the budget. And when we talk about budget, sometimes by optimizing through computational design or through like optimization of the process, the numbers tend to speak for itself, right? Like if it's a chance to reduce cost, then why not?
Yeah. Right. So I think it's a very insightful thing because like it seems that people that you work with, it's already by themselves understand that this process is important. But then there's another kind of processes, design process that I'm really interested in, because while Lim, you and Emily is very like set on your processes, process driven, I'm actually interested in what Ari is doing now in Salatiga. So Ari, previously, when in your talks recently and in our conversation, you mentioned that your practice currently in Salatiga, the way you work on project in Salatiga, the processes of it is very different with what you usually do with your practice Abode in Jakarta. You said that I quote, I loosely quote your words. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. You said that you're taking steps back as an architect and let the user take more control. Can you elaborate on this?
That's correct. I always likening this profession like being a good parents. When you are a good parents, you don't have to impose every single rule or judgment, but sometimes you have to let others chip in, contribute their own set of value. For in this example, I may have project with Emily, I may have project with Lim, I may have project with my worker, and all of them, each of them have to chip in their value, because I think to me that's how we can let things go and how we can make the building that I'm creating with them becoming a living building. Because I think building should live, and to be a living creature, they don't have to appear straight away likable. I don't know. This is the term that I always say about the things that I'm doing right now, because well, of course, I still doing my supervision, I still doing my observation, but when you let things go, it doesn't mean you are not in control. It just means that you control architecture with a wider spectrum of acceptance. And I think that's a very difficult returning a journey that I'm doing right now, because I realized that during my 15 years of practice, there's always a set of circumstances that surrounding the creation of building, technology, materiality, financially, knowledge, etc. And surprisingly, not so many people, maybe 70% people in Indonesia, they don't have access on this. So I believe that building has to grow with the people who live in it. It's otherwise it just become a packaging. And to live, the building has to grow. The building should experience many hands-on expert nurturing it together. And that is what happened when you let things go again, in a way. So I let my tukang, my worker experience things, learning things by following my guidance and instruction. So these images that you're showing right now is because when I moved in Salatiga, I was in need of having a place to stay. So obviously I have to build my own house, but learning of from my past experience, how difficult to start the house from the scratch. So it will take forever, architect, how they build the house, right? So I decided to just do a simple renovation, a major one, of an old wooden house that came with the land that I own. I decided on the material, whatever available, but I just using a simple washing powder with mineral water bottle to draw line on a compacted soil, or just arrange the brick on the position in which I think the wall should be, and the worker will follow whatever I draw on the floor. I think this is very primitive kind of methodology that Emily will smile to see it, because she will do all this in the computer, but I will do it straight away in a compacted soil, Emily. But this is very interesting, how you let people together nurture your building and your dream. And what you gain at the end is sometimes is beyond your expectation. And when I say beyond expectation, it can be good, it can be bad, but that's how the building should be. It has to be living. So you cannot just say that the good building is things that you like to see, but sometimes you see someone, it's not very pretty, right? But she's very nice after all, and you will like it. So how the house, how the building, it should be. So this is how I try to elaborate my process, Alam, right now that I'm doing. So yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I believe the spaces are really nice. We can hear the bird chirping behind you just now. Yeah, so it's really interesting because we can see that the workers actually draw their your bed actually on the floor.
I'm the one drawing it. I'm the one drawing it. I'm the one drawing it because I'm just too lazy to draw on paper. Here, drawing in paper mean nothing to them. So you just have to give them instruction, direct instruction, clear position of the wall, of the pipe and everything, and they will build it for you. And then you'll be surprised that in 4 weeks, you will have the house.
Okay, interesting that you said that even when you're letting go some part of the processes, it doesn't mean that you're not in control.
Yeah,
So
yeah. You just give
that's
yourself a wider acceptance. The spectrum has to be wider.
so this is something that usually come up to us designers, right? So as designers, there are some of us that is really control freak and really cannot let go our ego as creative. So it's just interesting that you're willing to do that. You're willing to have a wider acceptance. So what makes you arrive at that acceptance?
I don't know, maybe because I've been spending a lot of time worrying in my work previously, whether my works will look perfect, whether the tile joint and timber will perfectly fit, whether the height of the door will be exact 240 or 2/3 of the staircase of the landing. But that has become very tiresome, Alam. So it is kind of quite liberating of let things go and just wait and see what is happening at the end of the tunnel. And sometimes at the end of the tunnel, it's not even completed. It's still progressing. The good building, I think it should give an ample space for it to grow and to adjust with whoever living in it. And that's what happened in the project that I'm doing right now. Well, even though for some basic thing, don't get me wrong, I still have to emphasize on certain thing like the wall edge has to be straight and etc. That's the basic thing that we have to have, right? But
Yes.
I'm trying not to show obsessiveness too much on the building towards something in this kind of project. It has to be whatever it turned to be. And I always believe that when you give a freedom to the people who expert on doing things, you just have to give them a guidance. You just have to give them a set of rules to play with, and you will be surprised of what happening after that.
Okay, maybe we will be surprised to hear what Emily or Lim react to that. So so Lim and Emily, how do you react to this kind of practice that Ari is doing by letting go some part of the design process that that might or that will lead to something unexpectedly amazing? So maybe Lim or Emily, any of you want to chip in with your opinion?
Let me share you a picture of a project that we do. Maybe this could relate there. So yeah, so we are given quite a big volume of ceiling, and then again the architects also ask us how we deal with all the imperfection. So yeah, I mean we set all the parameter of how to solve these kind of issues. I mean we have hundreds of panels needs to be aligned together. We show the kind of direction that we've done so far. So the kind of challenge are given to us by nowadays is has more complexity, and we have enough study case to answer it. And yeah, so these are the weaving pattern that we propose to them that would connect all the bigger parts, whether it's straight or circular. This kind of weaving pattern would do nicely, evenly on all angle. So this kind of approach is the one that we did with architect and designer. We explain all the details, how we make the frame, the kind of weaving alignment, whether vertical or horizontal, how it fits on each of the parts. In such, all of them can come together nicely. So I think that that's it, Alam. I mean, it's good to be trusted by the architect, but at the same time, our job is to give them a sense of direction, how we could solve things accordingly, and with given parameter, they could let us know what would be better, what would not be better, and which way is possible and which way is not possible, which one is more breathable, which one is more a living being, and which one is not. Yeah. So in our case, that's how we do things. We give architects option and let them decide what would be better in executing a more timeless architecture. Yeah.
Okay, that's a great example of projects that you show us there, Lim. But we can come back to that later. But it seems that you're saying that it's not about letting go control or keeping control, but it's about collaboration with the architects. That's with the architects, the designer, and that's what actually the most important thing in the process. So, am I correct to say that?
Yeah, I mean, Ari mentioned about talk about spectrum. So we care about which spectrum that whether the architects or owner is coming in. So in that part of spectrum, we see it from that part of angle in solving their problems, and then move away from another spectrum that we think would be suitable for them. And by giving them these two options projected in whether it's simulation or sample or ideas, we let the architects and clients respond to it. Yeah. So that's the way we work. We imagine what would be possible given our knowledge or technology that we have here.
Amazing. So Emily, we haven't heard from you about letting go.
Well, I tend to our process tend to follow Lim's approach, and I think that like what Ari said is a complete luxury, like to be able to not do any drawings and trust that the craftsman will be able to do what your desires basically. But I also think from it from another perspective, right? In the end, like who are we to dictate what these craftsmen are doing? They are so good at their work. They have been there for like 30 years doing tiling. Yeah, shouldn't they be able to, inject some of their crafts? They are already masters of what they do into this building instead of imposing our details and ideas upon them. And that really got me thinking, there could be a different way of approaching this space or building when these two techniques or these two processes are coming together. There can be a balance, right? Like how can we let the craftsmen who have been doing so long to inject life into this building at the same time as an architect or a designer still operate within the spectrum of the client's expectation?
Craftsmen are really skillful in their craft, and then it's amazing that you tell us to let's work with them and then embrace what they have and use it to our advantage. Basically, we're not here to impose our thing to those craftsmen. And I think Ari is nodding in agreement just now. And I believe Lim worked with his own craftsmen as well that hand weave all of his product as well. And Emily, just one last question for you is that in digital fabrication, right, you're aided by technology. But yes, you're aided by technology, but you're dealing with the material itself, which is unique and unpredictable because the materials can be from a natural material, wood, stone, and everything, which is a lot of imperfections there, definitely. But as a digital fabricator, which materials do you find the most difficult to work with, and how you deal with it?
Well, I still think that wood is the most difficult to work with, especially because like every tree is unique and there is a degree of unexpectedness. So unfortunately, with digital fabrication tools, they are not as robust as human limbs, and they can't. And we still need to react in real time when we are treating wood. So when I carve, right, I can feel the tension of the grain. I know that the knot is coming up, but the machine cannot. So this is where you really have to watch. Sometimes we guess with our eyes where the knots are, but sometimes you really have to react fast. When I'm machining, I'm also looking at what's coming up, and then stop and redesign or see how we can go about to circumvent that weak point. And moisture content also creates tolerances, right? So with wood, it's still moving. What moisture content change as the day changes, right? So with with digital fabrication, we always talk about precision and tolerances, and it's sometimes impossible to create like the perfect result. Even with general humidity, whether it's raining or not, actually sometimes affects how the wood will warp after cutting. So all these compensations through experience will have to be designed in and taken into consideration to avoid any nasty surprises during production.
I like how you use the word nasty surprises. I think that's the word that we can all relate around here. And okay, last question in this session before we go to the next session. So I'll go back to Ari. So
You're just about to ask me what kind of nasty surprises like that.
No, you already tell us that you're okay with the nasty surprises, so we're not asking that anymore. But this practice you do in Salatiga with nasty surprises, just kidding. Do you see this kind of practice is location specific? Do you see this can be applied to your can or should be applied to your other practices in Jakarta, let's say, or maybe like in other locations? Now, what do you think about that?
Before I answer about that, I have to tell you this, that for many reasons in Indonesia, many people has no access in terms of choices when building their own house, when building their own building. Even though we live in an era of industrialization, we can see bio living with the product, we can see Emily living with the product, but not many people having choices on that. But they for example, in Salatiga, you know, there are a lot of choices, second-rate material that we have to embrace wisely. How we can use that in their building to make them perform well rather than just looks well. That's actually is my goal. So I also quite disagree with the statement that good architecture is one with a minimum trace of industry in it. I very disagree with that statement because not many have the privilege to experience that. I think more people, especially in Salatiga, in all those small towns in Java, they have to succumb with what available in the market. So this is the thing that I think is the part of our professional measure to make them perform well according to a context and its user. So I don't think this is a set specific. It can be applied anywhere. The rule is there. The material is there, but just vary in any kind of spectrum. So we have to make them perform well according to, like I say, the context and user. I think working in this situation, to me, is this kind of context. The most interesting part is when you are able to challenge people on how they can change the way they live, change their mindset about how architecture should look, and work together to achieve it. And I think this is perhaps a rare occasion, or most probably impossible to happen, when you are working with someone with enough money to buy marble to clad the entire house, right? So I think this is I think the beauty of working in this kind of environment. That's maybe you can show the next house, the picture of the next house, where actually you don't really see what is the specific things on the house, what has been happening on the house. But I think
sorry.
I think the most non-visual stuff is the one thing that is the most essential. I change the way the people live inside the house. The house is not about how it looks, but how every part of it performs together to create a decent environment living. And it's just, I think it makes me happy beyond just seeing a pristine and beautiful picture of how house is used to do. I used to do years ago. This is the house in Sleman that I helped them to reduce the pungent smell coming from the goat, from the chicken, from the geese that's living with them. So I'm just proposing a very simple solution of doing a wind turbine, and then I'm just providing them with some sketches and some access to how to buy the material, how to make it works and everything. And I just have to take a sit back and watch how the process going with the worker, with the owner. And I think this is this is how I work right now. That the apparatus now is apparently working very well. And I just provide the basic drawing for owner and the worker and give them freedom to explore. Maybe there are other possibilities to improve the house quality that may be overlooked sometimes in all those simple drawing. So for example, this I creating the opening, just simple opening, just to let the things, let the steam go, so the smell will be less, and it will be better for the neighbor that live surround their house. So and this is the project that run according to budget available. I'm just observing and helping when the decision need to be made. Documentation is all on the wall and on the formwork board that become their working drawing. But mostly I leave the process to owner to take their ability to running option that not possible to be seen on drawing, such as the orientation of the turbine, the position of the wood burner stove, that also help reduce the ammonia to eliminate the smell. So I think this is the very interesting part where I was happy actually 2 weeks ago when they tagged me and sent me all this picture and thanking me that finally they have a proper dining space for the whole family to gather and cherish their passing day, something that will never happen before. So this is the kind of architecture that I think we should embrace, not temporarily, but I think they will become, to me, it's like become extracurricular activities that will be putting an additional value in my work with my firm. How you embrace industrialization in a wiser way.
How you embrace industrialization in a wiser way. That's a quote of the day over there, and that's mark our second session, and let's move on to our third session. So in this third session, I will ask you a question. Actually, one question, and then three of you need to answer the question. So I don't have unique questions for three of you, but you three need to answer the same questions. Okay. So we talk about a lot about processes and the design product itself. And I'm just wondering. So first question for all of you. What do you think the perfect design process is for you? And secondly, what do you think the perfect design product for you? And thirdly, if you need to make a choice, do you prefer a perfect design process or a perfect design product with process that going haywire, let's say? So who want to start first? Emily, you want to start first?
Well, why not? Yeah, so I would say my perfect design process would be a meaningful journey of discovery between design and fabrication, where design and fabrication, as complex as they are not linear, but instead an iterative process. So they are in constant dialogue to help us push the boundaries of both practices. And now actually we have a formal name for it. It's called DFMA, Design for Manufacturing and Assembly. So in our industry, we definitely cannot design with the absence of a plan to build, right? And I often have an inside joke about DFMA, especially in Singapore, where access to making is so difficult, right? It's designed for manufacturing and assembly. It's not design first and make after. So the first picture you see is the simulation of how we expect a material to react. Of course, we can plan, like have the best and most detailed plan out there. But the digital results must always be cross-checked with physical models. And you can see the second slide, like all the physical models we use to test the limits of deflection using different thicknesses, different composition of wood sheets, different glues, and different methods of joining them together will then come together and create something that's completely unique.
And for the second one,
so I would say that like my definition of a perfect design would be something that fulfills its original intention for its conception, right? Like a product doesn't have to look aesthetically perfect. In fact, like sometimes we just see, when something is new, we just see little modules of how it would look. We have no idea how it would become when it fills the entire room. So it's always a sense of a interesting expectation and anticipation when it comes to what we do. And if I must make a choice between perfect process and perfect product, I definitely would choose process, because a perfect product is subjective, right? Like, who is to say what's good and what's not? And sometimes it can be perfect at the start and completely irrelevant 5 minutes later. Or sometimes we may not even see the relevance at the very beginning, and then like decades later, it's applied in a different way. And then suddenly, whoa, it just blows everybody's minds. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for very insightful answers. And now I invite Lim to share his view on what he thinks is a perfect design process is, and what he thinks as a perfect design product is. And if you need to choose, which one do you choose between perfect design process and the perfect product itself?
Yeah, I don't know how to answer this without a philosophical angle, but if you ask me what is a perfect design process, it answers the ultimate harmony, and then it instills a timeless purposefulness. I mean, in Bali, they have what they call Trihita Karana, which is harmony with God, harmony with nature, and harmony with people. And then yesterday I was in Bali and I got to meet with Sungai Watts. And they told me that they were in Sungai Citarum do rafting, and then they have to go through a 60 centimeter of goo, like the whole chemical dam waste, etc., etc. So they have a mission to clean the dam, but from our team we asked, why are you doing this? Like, do you try to clean the whole river? And then they say no. While what they want to do is they want to create an understanding with the people that they shouldn't throw chemical, they shouldn't throw garbage to the river. So I think that's my idea of perfect design process. You have to give an ultimate answer of harmony, and then a timeless purposefulness. And then when it comes to perfect design product, I think it should give me a sense of completeness, of fullness, and that product wouldn't seek attention. So that's my definition of perfect design product. But I mean, these two questions is far from something ideal. I mean, I'm talking about when we talk about process, I talk about Citarum, the dirty river. And then when we talk about product, I'm talking about Muji pen. It's very simple. It works well, and then you could do a proper refill, and that's a good solution for me. So if you ask me if I have to choose, I would choose a perfect design process, because it's a precursor of me getting a better, a more perfect design product. Process would definitely come first when it comes to order. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Lim. Thank you for instilling more philosophical thoughts to our conversation. This is the first time in this conversation we deal with harmony, and then thank you for brought up that we need that harmony in the design process, and it will be interesting to hear what Ari will say about the same question. So Ari, perfect design process, perfect product, and then if you need to choose, you want a perfect process or you want a perfect product?
Well, the perfect design process will happen, like I mentioned before, when there is some problem, certain limit to answer, certain question to answer. And the perfect design process is when you don't have to try to prepare everything. Because I think to me, architecture become interesting when it is a work in progress to enjoy, rather than some kind of preemptive condition that seldom has lost its novelty when it is completed. Like Emily says, when you complete something that suddenly it become irrelevant to the situation on that period. So I really agree with that. So if I have to choose, maybe I have to choose the perfect process, because the process is very important. I think I'm also going to be more philosophical in this way, but it's a very Japanese philosophical. I think you guys, especially that come from the eastern part of Java, you all know the theater performance called ludruk, right? That is something that I really enjoy when I was a teenager, because my grandmother always bring me to this kind of show, and then I can sit there for 2 hours of the show. The most interesting part about the show is that the director and 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 normally the director is not famous. No one know the director. He will set the script and he will set the storyline, but then he will give freedom to the actor and actresses to create their own dialogue. And it's very amazing. It's very interesting how each of these actor and actress play their own role without jeopardizing the whole script, the whole storyline. Because this kind of show, the story were normally based on a history, on urban myth, but they will, during the dialogue, they will infuse the everyday issues of life, political, social event to make it relevant to the audience. So whatever the ending is, but the important thing with this Ludruk show is the content, the conversation, the play within. So it's the process. So the process is very important to me. So I always liken my architectural journey right now with this Ludruk play. I think you have to Google that. It's very interesting philosophy behind this Ludruk, because the director will just give a freedom for everyone to play, as long as the start is this and the end is this. So you will see actually the same story all over again, but with a different twist in the process. So that is very important thing, and that is very captivating part of the architecture and Ludruk connection. So my answer is I prefer a perfect process to make it relevant.
Okay, so that's a very well, surprisingly or unsurprisingly, everybody has the same questions when asked about perfect design process or perfect design product, and it shows us that how the emphasis on what's intangible beyond the product itself, it's what is important for a design. And Ari, so you can I say that your architecture that you're doing in Salatiga is Ludruk architecture? Well, audience, you hear it first in this session, okay?
I think this is the answer of Wabi Sabi. So it's become like a Ludruk architecture.
So for those of you who only up until now familiar with the Japanese term of Wabi Sabi, there's a Japanese counterpart to that, just Ludruk architecture, and you hear it first here in Imperfection by Design from Ari Indayanto.
You know, Alam, Ludruk is always mimic as close as possible the reality of life, So my architecture tried to mimic as close as possible the reality of life to build environment. Yeah, so I think that's a good term of putting it. Ludruk architecture.
Okay, so thank you everyone. Thank you all our amazing panelists. So now is the time for us to take a look at the Q&A room, which is unfortunately our audience is a bit shy. So currently we have 2 questions, and first question is specifically for you, Emily. And this is a question from Abdul Matin from East Borneo in Indonesia.
Hi, Abdul Matin. Well, yeah, so I'm reading about
So Let me read your
okay.
let me read the question. Yeah, it is very interesting how your company can develop so much more about wood. Is there any particular type of wood that you use, or is it recycled wood material?
We do use a lot of recycled wood, where in Singapore, because we have no kiln, right? So all the, and we are still developing rapidly. We have a lot of trees being cut down, forests being cleared. So we have quite an abundance of local wood, as well as we do use reconstituted wood, let's say with plantation logs being peeled and reconstituted together. We do use that as well. Or like the more ubiquitous products like wood chips, like MDF and chipboard. So we do use this kind of course, that these are always our first cut of recommendations to the client. Then they will come back and say, hey, I want to do something in solid oak.
Yeah. But how do you see the perception for local wood species in Southeast Asia in comparison to, let's say, yes, you talk about oak, walnut, and so on, which is come from the temperate areas, not from the tropical areas. So, what do you think about the perception on the tropical wood, and then how your experience with the tropical wood?
Well, actually, tropical wood is very sought after, like mahogany. It's being used, I mean, even in Danish furniture, you see mahogany being used, right? But I guess it's the intention of it. Like right now, we are using things that are already, or trees that are already going to be cut down. And how do we stop, abusing this noble idea of using these trees instead of going to the forest and purposely harvesting them to be used? And if they are, then how do we protect the forest? Like, does this tree deserve to be cut down? How do we still protect the undergrowth? I think that's very important. With local tropical trees, I think that they have been far more popular in the past, simply because of how strong they are, with trees near the equator always being a lot stronger, a lot more water resistant, a lot more insect resistant compared to the temperate ones.
Okay, that's good to hear, because our audience here come from East Borneo, Indonesia, and then as we all know that there's a lot of tropical hardwood in the forest, and there's a lot of deforestation as well.
Yes,
exactly.
So,
Mr. Abdul Matin, maybe after this event you can contact and then start collaborating with Emily with a wood supplier or whatever that you have in your areas in East Borneo. Thank you for your question. And a second question. So we have a question that is not addressed to specific panelists. So I assume this will be for all of the panelists. So the question is, if we could go back to the perfect period before the pandemic and know this pandemic would happen, what or how would you prepare your business or your practices differently? This is an interesting question. Thank you, Bandung Periphery. Oh, I guess that's not an actual person name, but thank you. Who will start answering first? So I will give Ari the first.
Yeah. Thank you, Alam. But this situation of imperfection, I don't think can be prepared beforehand. This is a kind of revolution. Revolution will never be prepared. You have to go in drastic measure. If you prepare things, they become evolution. Evolution will go slowly, and you don't go slowly. Well, you want to do some drastic measure. So this question is rather not appropriate. Not correct, because what we are doing is kind of a revolution. So you cannot prepare revolution.
That's an interesting take about our situation. Our situation currently is a revolution. So we always see this as a
changes always need revolution, not evolution.
Yeah. Thank you, Ari. So Lim, what do you think about what would you done differently with your practice? Should you know that this kind of lockdown, pandemics, restriction will happen?
Yeah, I don't know what the other things, Ari and Emily and also you, Alam, but I mean, there are these questions that there will be a third cycle of COVID. I mean, we talk about this, so we don't know what will happen by next year. But I mean, I explained in the beginning that one of my learning curve is that I have these 3 P's here. First P is purpose. So I work on my purpose carefully, because when things become harder, you need to have a sharper focus of purpose here. It cannot be like a biased purpose here, because it will be our time, our life, our blood that we'll be putting on spot. So purpose needs to be made very clear. And then process is another thing that, you know, when we talk about process, even in the level of ASEAN and the World Economic Forum, we told our friends to invest on a much deeper process. It's not about a single intelligence, but it's more widespread. I think Emily understands this. You know, it's the kind of process that would more like a wider rooted capability, you know, to easily answer a more complicated questions here. It almost has a viral capability, the kind of process that could answer a bigger span of problem. But then the other one is preservation. I mean, when we talk about preservation, not only we talk about environmental, because the kind of threat that we have by now is biological, but we also have an environmental problem. So preservation in a sense of how we could, you know, save the earth for the next generation, but also our very own preservation. I mean, we could save the earth, but if we are losing ourselves, then there's no point of doing it, you know. So yeah, that's the 3 P's that I would keep on my pocket there.
Thank you, Lim. Thank you for the 3 P's.
Yeah.
Purpose, process, and preservation. Audience, you hear it first in Imperfection by Design, 3 P's from Lim of Biodesign, of Bioliving. Thank you for your insight. And Emily, now it's your turn. If you go back to the perfect period before the pandemic, what would you change in your practice should you know that the pandemic will happen?
I wouldn't change a single thing because I feel like my business was specifically, it's been accelerated by the pandemic because Singapore is always we have a lot of foreign labor coming in, and with my business being empowering locals to build again, really helped us a lot because then, the prices were increased to a level that people can accept what we are doing. We have also a much already kind of prepared for this to happen because everything is we try to source locally, everything we try to do locally, right? So it really was justified what I was trying to do in the beginning, which is to reduce CO2 by doing things locally and to have in the end we still gotta eat, we still gotta live, we still gotta wear some clothes. So if in the absence of foreign talents coming in or if we only had ourselves, then we definitely have to have some builders in Singapore to build houses for us to stay in.
Yeah, because in the first place, your practice superstructure especially come about because your view and your experiencing there's a lack of craftsmen and builders in Singapore. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's a very insightful answers. Thank you all the panelists. And we have one last question from the audience. This is from Unknown. And the question is for Emily, but I think this can be applied for Lim as well because now he's touching into these areas as well. So Emily, so the question asked that said that design for manufacturing it's what you're doing, but at times, could it be very much also driven by manufacturing for design instead? For example, with latest advancement of technology in rapid prototyping that can be done in perfecting design even more. I'm not quite sure what the question is about to ask, but okay, maybe you can react to that. Two terms first, Emily: design for manufacturing or manufacturing for design.
Well, I would say that, I mean, it's two different starting points, right? It's like somebody designed something super creative, so manufacturing is trying to catch up, whereas somebody has invented a manufacturing process, and now the design can be born from this manufacturing process. I think that both of them are extremely important, but these two needs to come together, right? Like, let's say, like, if it's when you're manufacturing, say, like steel, for example, you need to find an application for it. So you design an application for let's say for medical equipment, for war, for things like that. So because of this invention, then like all these other applications come about, which is also very important in the process.
Yeah. For the unknown unknown questioning audience, hopefully that answers the question. I believe that you explained it quite really clearly, that design for manufacturing and manufacturing design has two different starting points. The first one is that we design drive how manufacturing will perform, but then the other part is that the design itself embrace what's already there, happen by manufacturing. So thank you. Since we still have time for the Q&A session, I will do one interesting thing for you guys, panelists. So since we don't have any questions from the audience left, we will ask one of you to ask question to the other panelists. Okay, so who wanted to volunteer to ask questions to the other panelists about what have been talked about by us now, about imperfections, about processes, about beyond a design product, beyond the tangible, anything. Any of you want to volunteer? If not, I'll point someone to ask questions. Okay.
No one asking a question.
Okay, I'll point a panelist that has a wider smile just now. Ari, so can you ask like questions either to Emily or to Lynn or to both of them?
I think yeah, okay. I think I can ask to both of you guys, Emily and Lynn, because I'm very interested of what you are doing right now. Especially for Lynn, Lim, you are doing a lot of those woven thing, using rattan, using thing, and Emily, you are doing it. I think the same kind of thing with your timber thing. You are using the natural resource to do that, and to do something that I think will be out of topic today, become very perfect. Your product become very perfect, become very meticulously detailed, and every detail has been thought through. So it left no room for imperfection. It left no room for things to grow. That is, I think, contrary to our take about how the nature should be, right? Do you have any idea of, is there any way both of you doing it in a different way to make it close more to nature rather than away from nature, in term of how the material react on this thing, Maybe
Emily and Lim, you can choose to agree or not agree with the question itself as well.
I feel like the choice of material by nature already informs the phenomenology. Like if I were to use like parametric design and metal, the thing becomes very cold. There's no the curve is defined by the machine and the product is very man-made. But when you are working with timber and all that, there is only so much you can do to distort it. In the end, the timber or even the rattan reacts on its own. So it's almost a mix between what is man-made, what I ask it to do, and what it's actually doing. It's a mix between a manufactured and a natural process coming together. Because like the fibers are doing their thing, and the machine will help the fibers move.
You know why I'm asking this? Because I don't have to mention the name, but there is this engineer who manufactured the growth of the natural thing. I think that's very interesting, right? So she manufactured the thing to grow, and I just wondering if you guys can do things towards that direction, because it will be very interesting to see how, for example, the timber will grow accordingly to their natural call, and you manufacture that to become your product.
Yeah, maybe to add to that, Emily and Lim, is it something that you already thought of in your practice, that something that is growing, right, Ari? So it leaves a second or third life, or it leaves after you're done with your design. Actually, there's a second life of that design that can be happening afterwards. They grow.
Yeah.
So we know that we have like a mushroom materials that use as structure, but then I don't believe that after they become a building structure, they can still becoming a growing material. I don't know, but then if any of you think about or touch base on a design that opens to growth after you finish designing it? So I think that's a question. Am I correct, Ari?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to say, Ari, is not about bio-living is not about controlling the free will. Yeah? So free will is still playing in this part of the game. So we're just telling what are the possibilities. You could choose a good, you could choose a good angle. You could choose a bad angle. We just explain our part of comprehension of that process here. And then we let the other Ludruk player to play their part. We just telling them, this is what we see, and you just go in your way, because we think the A is this, the B is that. So you choose your part. And then to answer your question about whether we work with something that's growing, actually we also do that. You could talk to David. We have this research that we want to create an architecture installation that have a harmony with the environment. So what we do is we put this whether rattan or this specific nature material as a sample structure, and then we have a biologist to see whether certain insect would be there at certain part of time. Would there be certain part of moss would stick in certain part area, and we let that certain habitat would do differently. Like the one that we do now is in mangrove area, but we are thinking to do it in different part of Indonesia. So for me, yeah, that's the thing about bio-living. We don't intervene with anyone's free will. We just like empower, we just telling them our part of comprehension, and actually we would like you all to give us like a different angle. If we need to play with different idea, whether we talk about DNA or we talk about physical things, whether we need to talk about carbon fiber, we are willing to push on that direction, as long as it's a part of your comprehension in responding to your free will in the in our longer life. We have a limited lifespan. So within that lifespan, would it be justifiable to do that side of comprehension?
Great, Ari. Any other comments to the answers? This is your question, so if you have any.
Yeah, that is the kind of answer that I'm waiting for Lim, because it's very interesting to see how things grow to create a second layer in the things that maybe Emily or Lim right now manufacturing. And I think, yeah,
and
I'm quite
then
satisfied with the answer.
yeah, it might give some sort of anxiety to our designers, right? Because growth,
Yeah,
after we don't have control of it,
yeah,
can
because
lead to anything.
by doing that, I think you come to the term that you let the things go. You don't manufacture things anymore, and that I think it's become very interesting when the nature take control on your product. It's like my client take control in my architecture. So you will let nature take control on your product, and that will be very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's also same problem with village tourism nowadays, Ari. So there are some angle in our team that says that in order for us to sustain the culture at certain village, we actually destroy it because we don't let things grow according to that village's perspective. So this installation also in corresponding to that, but the angle is we let nature to be a part of our solution. Yeah. And then same thing with the Chitaram, we don't want to be the one who collect the garbage. What we want is to change the people there to be conscious not to throwing away. So I think that's our part, not to say that who is wrong, not to say who's better, but it's more like these are the comprehension and you need to do your part on with your free will to go to certain direction. Yeah, we are sort of like more an enabler rather than the judge here.
That's a very good quote there, Lim, that we designers are enablers. We cannot just be judges. And that, I think, is the end of our Q&A session. So thank you for the attendees that asked their questions on a question room, on a question window. And also, thank you for the amazing answers, panelists. Now we'll move on to something, because we already talked about a lot of things, a lot of like serious things here. Let's do something more like fun and heartwarming. I believe you are familiar with this and that. Any of you familiar with this and that? Rapid questions. Anybody?
Scared. What is that? I have no clue.
So basically, I will ask you to choose one between two words that I will show on screen. So you just need to choose this or that, the word number one or word number two, without even thinking too much. Okay. So I have three this and that, or three rapid questions for each of you. And I will start with Ari. Ari, are you ready?
Yeah, I try.
So, rushed or relaxed?
Relax.
Okay. Hands-on or hands-off?
Hands-on.
Hands-on.
Yeah.
Okay. Urban or rural?
Rural. Right now.
No, I won't let you answer that. So that's an inappropriate question. Sorry.
What's the next question? Why you offer?
It's Abure or Slotine. No, I won't ask this question. Okay. So and next one is for Lim. Lim, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, rough or smooth?
Smooth.
Oh wow.
Rigid or loose?
Loose.
Fabricated or crafted?
Crafted, yeah.
Okay, sorry, I missed that one here, but that's my third question. And Emily, now the last set of questions is for you. First of all, timber or stone?
Timber.
Rustic or sleek?
Sleep.
Oh. Digital or analog?
Digital.
I won't ask you this question, sorry.
There is always the last question that he offered.
I won't let you choose between the two practice that you have now. It's not appropriate. Sorry, guys. Okay, so I think that ends our discussion session. So lastly, before I will conclude the discussion, I will give one more chance for each of panelists, if you have, to give your final statement or final say before I conclude the discussion. So I will invite, maybe start from Ari first.
What is this a last statement that I have to go?
Yeah. So out of our discussion just now, how do you feel? You don't need to craft a political statement. Just tell us how you feel about imperfection by design, and about what we talked about during this discussion.
Well, I will just say again what I say in the first session of this conversation, that it is good to gain temporary freedom from architecture market. So that's just the message.
Okay, thank you. It's good to have temporary freedom from the architecture market. So designers out there, listen to the listen to the quote there. It's good to escape for a while. Okay, so Emily, what about you?
Well, I will have a quote from my earlier statements as well for DFMA. Design for manufacturing and assembly, not design first, make after.
Thank you. Okay, so it's not design first and make after. I mean, we definitely will take that into our heart from now on. And Lim, your last statement, your closure statement.
Yeah, I mean, dealing with imperfection, in my opinion, is not about dealing with the outside. It's actually about getting to know you and more laughing with yourself, trying to know who you are. And then once you could understand who you are, once you can accept who you are, then it would enable you to see more clearly how you deal with the, what is so-called perfection and imperfection. So yeah, that's my statement. Don't get distracted with what is out there. Don't get distracted with what is perfected, what is not imperfect, but focus on getting to know who you are. Try to be the best version of you. Try to accept yourself. Try to forgive yourself. And then that's an easier answer for you to deal with all the quote-unquote perfection or imperfection.
Thank you, Lim. Thank you very much. And now it's my turn to conclude the discussion as a closing statement as a moderator. So everyone, panelists, attendees, speakers, thank you for coming and joining our discussion today. And as the moderator, please let me conclude, or please make me have a closing statement of our discussion for today. So talking about imperfection is mainly talked about perception and appreciation. As what Emily said, it's subjective. Sorry. Appreciating imperfection is not merely talking about what is visible, but also how you relate and connect beyond the tangible. It's about how you value stories behind things and design processes behind it. Furthermore, as a designer, it is also about how we communicate those values, those stories, those processes to the end user. Imperfection will always have its place in the middle of the design industry's perpetual pursuit of perfection, precision, rapid growth, and efficiency. Imperfection will be there to provide warmth, uniqueness, harmony, character, and also an escape, a breathing space. However, imperfection is not tolerable if it's a product of incompetence, malpractice, or lack of professionalism. Imperfection needs to exist by design. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good afternoon. Thank you, all the panelists. Thank you, Ari, Emily, and Lim.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you very much, Archifest. And also thank you very much teman-teman IAI dimanapun Anda berada, and our colleagues wherever you are. Until the next IAI and Archifest event in the future. Thank you and have a good afternoon, everybody. Thank you.
Oh, we can see you all in Singapore again.
Yes, hope we can see you all again.
Yeah.
Hope we can travel again.
See you.
Bye. See you.
Bye-bye, everybody.